My name is Daniel Johnson. I'm an associate partner with Education Elements. I live and work out of Washington, D.C., and I have spent the last 6 years with Education Elements, primarily on supporting schools and districts, state organizations across the country design more responsive systems and practices. I'm going to pass it over to Justin.
I'm Justin DeLeon. I'm based in Miami, Florida. I've been with Education Elements 8 years now. I work primarily with schools and districts to design and implement student-centered learning models. And over the past couple of years, we have thought about how we can partner with districts to retain teachers and make the teaching profession more satisfying and exciting, right, and innovative for teachers so that they stay in classrooms and create more consistency for learners across the districts that we support.
And my name's Lauren Akery. I'm coming to you all from Lexington, Kentucky, and I support our impact and research efforts at Education Elements in addition to some of the implementation work.
We have 3 objectives for our session together. First is to understand some of the inequities surrounding teacher retention. Second will be applying a design framework. We call this Connect, Include, Create. And then third, consider your current context and reflect on ways in which you might design for more equitable systems for teacher retention and support.
On that next slide, there's a great quote that I think illustrates the importance of the include phase, which is that too often product systems and services are designed for rather than with the people they serve. And to add on to this, when I was an instructional coach for new teachers, I heard with my other instructional coaches, we'd be like, when I was a new teacher, this is what really worked for me. So my perspective was 100% biased, right? And thinking about I'm designing systems that reinforce what worked for me, which was a pretty advantaged white woman, right? That did well in the teaching system, right? And so thinking about how can I bring in, not just in the interview phase, but bring in throughout the design process, people whom I'm trying to serve, right? And make the systems work for. How can I bring those folks into the process as opposed to just telling them at the beginning what we're thinking about and at the end what we did as a result. So here's a couple things that you might think about in the include phase is whose voices need to be at the table, whose voices have traditionally been excluded, and kind of going a step beyond that is thinking about who are the users at the margins for this problem that you're designing for. And I think these questions work beyond the context of just teacher retention or teacher attrition, but thinking about who am I designing for, who are the users who are going to be at the margins, and who has the system traditionally failed to serve, and how can I bring those people into the process now, thinking about what it is that success means to them, how can I get to understand their perspective and their needs a little bit better, and just really thinking about from the outset the who and the why behind the stage. Justin, you can take over from here.
So building on what Lauren's saying, Lauren shared with us, there being so many layers to this issue. We know that it's inherently complicated. We intentionally are just kind of looking at a slice of the teacher recruitment and retention problems through the lens of the 5 phases within the context of a district. That's not meant to discount anything that's happening before teachers submit that teacher website to even consider working in the district. But again, we're just trying to narrow the focus a little bit for the context and the purpose of this particular conversation. Some challenge questions to think about. Are we being intentional about who we're including? And as you do that, right, the hope is that it's enhancing your perspective, it's building empathy, and it's making you and your team and ultimately the system as a group more aware of what people are experiencing. And so we're using this recruitment and retention, the recruitment website as an example, but you can imagine how these questions could be applied depending on what the inequity that you want to address. So here are some questions on the left that you might ask around, same as what Lauren said, who's at the table, but also thinking about what has worked, because there are things that we do that work. And some people mentioned you have to understand at the campus level too. Absolutely. There are some campuses in a district who might be farther along because of a leader or a group of leaders who have been intentional about this. If you had a magic wand, what would you want our new website to look like? Which sounds silly, but it gives an ideal case scenario that gets people to share, well, really, if it was up to me, I would want it to look like this. And then what would success look like? And also what would successful implementation of it look like? And so what you might learn from there are, as a district leader, right, or a network leader, or somebody who's in charge of the work around teacher recruitment and retention, really we're marginalizing people before they even apply. That might be because of the images and the messages we're putting on our website, right? Or we're not really making our benefits clear. And that's what a lot of people need, right? People of color and not, that's what people need to understand and hear. And you might recognize that there's actually barriers to applying and learning more about open teaching positions. For example, what time of day might you have virtual career fairs, or is it reliant on transportation? Are there certain barriers that you might have thought about that's preventing people from learning more and preventing people from applying in the first place or interviewing. And so there's many different ways that you can do this, but creating a more diverse return planning task force, again, picking up on some of the challenge questions that Lauren posed around who makes decisions, are marginalized people who are affected by this, are their voices being brought to the table to help influence the redesign of this particular system or this product, in this case, a recruitment website. And sitting down in a roundtable fashion, asking those questions, but also using the same structure when you're talking about different potential solutions and getting different perspectives. More and more, we definitely see this happening. We definitely see district leaders becoming more aware of the need to have a diverse set of voices brought to the table to make decisions, but not in every single district and not in every single initiative. So it's a matter of discipline as well.
We do invite you to learn more. We have a general guide that shares some of our latest and greatest thinking around teacher retention, specifically strategies that we've mentioned today. So thank you everybody for your time today.